I like to reproduce the same routine when I meditate, whether it be this particular technique of meditating to music or whether it be another technique such as the 5 steps to stillness. The 5 steps to stillness is another technique that I teach involving 5 steps. And when you do the same technique over and over and you're able to repeat the same technique, you kind of have an inner tracking, and you know exactly how to springboard off of that technique. So in other words, let's say you do a random technique every day that you get online or whatever. Let's say you're new to meditation and you're trying a new technique every day. It's going to be very difficult to track your progress because every single time you try a new technique, you have to adapt to the technique. Now, the technique is only a means. The technique is only a means to the end. So the end, or the goal, is to get into a state of meditation, the meditative state. So whatever technique you use to get there, it really doesn't matter as long as it works. But I believe, from my experience, that it helps to stick with one particular technique for a while, to master it. And when you master it, or at least gain a good amount of proficiency at this technique, you're able to understand, you're able to know, to expect would be a better word. You're able to expect what's going to be required. You're able to expect what may happen leading up to that meditative state. So what I'm really trying to say is it's good to stick with one technique for a while. Get proficient at it. That way you can kind of know what to expect, know the routine, know the formula, know the path, and it's going to make your life much easier. So it's kind of like the analogy if I was to say master a martial arts style, or if I wanted to go and learn martial arts, for example. Would it be better to try a new martial art every day? Or would it be better to stick with one martial art for a few years until I gain proficiency and mastery, or at least a level of expertise with that technique? So hopefully that makes sense, and the same thing should be applied to your meditation. So, I think about meditation a lot. And why? Well, because I run this group and I see all of your posts, and I look at the discussions and I can kind of see what's on people's minds. And so I really want to help. I really want to come on here and provide some sort of a guidance. I really want to provide some sort of an insight that'll help take you from maybe a beginner, complete beginner, or intermediate stage of your meditation practice and take you to that next level, whatever that might be. So I think it's important to constantly reevaluate what we're actually doing here. When we sit down, when we try to meditate, what it's all about. Not necessarily what the goal is, but what's the real process happening as we sit here and undergo this transformation? And one way to talk about it or look at it is that it's a process of coming out. Not coming out of the closet, silly, but coming out of your shell, your eggshell, this hardened form, this armor of an identity, this personality, this concrete self that we have adapted, created, etc. Because the premise is that meditation, the state of meditation, the higher awareness, the higher consciousness, liberation, enlightenment, realization, whatever you want to call it, The idea is that this exists right now, right here. But why are we not necessarily experiencing that infinite reality, that blissful consciousness, that transcendental experience? And I talk about this a lot, but I think it's always good to reiterate it and reevaluate it. It's got to do with our conditioning, the conditioning of our minds, the conditioning of our bodies, the conditioning of our emotions. And these are really the three primary areas that I like to touch on in my meditation teaching. You have a body, you have an emotional body or an energy body, and you have a mental body. And these three distinct dimensions of ourself are what we directly interface with during meditation or during our attempt to sit. And so what we're trying to do is come out of our shell. We're trying to overcome the conditioning on these three dimensions. So when we talk about the physical body, we talk about many things. What do we eat? The health of our physical body. The exercise, the strength, the endurance of the physical body. So, for example, if you're not healthy physically, or let's say if you eat the wrong kinds of foods, or let's say if you don't exercise, your physical body could be one of your biggest obstacles that we need to overcome, that we need to transcend. So, it's important to lead a healthy physical life, eating healthy, not necessarily all the time. It's okay to indulge in your occasional favorite dessert or cheat meal, if you will. But having a regular, steady diet of healthy, good food, and it doesn't always have to be a specific diet, you know, it's not about being too picky. Hey guys, welcome. Good to have you on. Thanks for saying hi. But it's important to have something consistent in your diet that makes you feel good. And not makes you feel good from a pleasure sense, but makes you feel good from a health sense. So in order to do that, you need to be somewhat consistent with what you eat. So when you eat random things all the time, you're going to have random feelings. You're going to have random results. So just like your meditation technique, you should have some sort of consistency with your diet. Now, you should have some sort of consistency with exercise. To keep the physical body healthy, to whether you're into endurance sports like running or biking or jogging or walking the dog or whatever it might be, it's a good idea to get out there and get your body moving so that you get the energies flowing, you get the sweat detoxifying the body. And if you're somebody like me who's an extremist, I like bodybuilding, I like martial arts, I like taking it to the edge and going beyond. That way I know that I am on that cusp of taking myself, or at least keeping myself at my highest limits, whether it be the highest limits of my strength, the highest possible limits of my current flexibility, the highest possible limits of my current endurance training, whatever it might be. It's important to push it to those limits. And so we take care of the body so that when we sit down to meditate, the body is healthy. When you have a healthy body, it will be easily transcended in your meditation practice. What does that mean? It means that if you have an unhealthy body, there could be result in all sorts of aches and pains. If you have an unhealthy body, there could be all sorts of unnecessary body weight or whatever it might be that gets in the way, or perhaps you eat the wrong things and you just feel crappy, or it's making your body very toxic. And so the idea of purification prior to meditation is an important one to keep in mind. So, what I suggest is just having some sort of a regular exercise routine that we keep up, just like you have a regular meditation routine. And so, when we're sitting down to meditate, what we're trying to do is overcome any sort of an obstacle to stillness. Stillness is the prerequisite for the meditative state. It's funny, because I hear a lot of people say, and I don't fault them for this, I think it's just the way that we use words. But a lot of people call things that are meditation that aren't meditation. Like, I'm going to go for a walking meditation. Well, let's think about that for a second. Are you walking or are you meditating? Can you do those two at the same time? Really? Not really, to be honest. No. Absolutely not. Now, can you be in a meditative state and then go walking? Well, sure. Hopefully you can maintain that meditative state. But the idea of a seated meditation practice is that you are taking it to your limit. You can't really take it to the limit if you go for a walk and then try to get into the meditative state. It's not really going to work that way. You might be able to do mindful walking. You might have a great walk and enjoy the beautiful day. And that's awesome. But meditation is about transcending the limitations. And one of the limitations we have is our body. Our body is a limiting factor. Because perception through the body, when we talk about the senses, is a limited perception. When we see things through the eyes, when we hear things through the ears, smell, taste, touch, we are only perceiving a very small percentage. We are only experiencing a very tiny percentage of what could possibly be experienced. So when we sit down to meditate, we want to experience our limitless potential. But in order to do that, we have to get past our limitations. Normally, we're involved with a lot of limitations. When we perceive life through the body, we are confronted with walls, literally. We have to open doors in order to make it through rooms and buildings and such. But if we were just pure energy, pure mind, well, maybe we could move through walls. I think I'm getting off track a little bit here, so let's get back to business and get right to the meditation, shall we? So, when we're sitting down to meditate with the music, we're using the music as a way to play. Play off of the music, meaning the goal with meditation is to sit, become still, transcend the separation, the apparent separation that we have imagined, that we've become so conditioning, that we've become so conditioned to view life through. And as we do this process, what you'll discover is that we become very light as we release any sort of a heaviness. We release any sort of a tension, whether it be physically, emotionally, or mentally. We become very much like the air. The air is not bound by anything. Air can take any form, or like water, for example. Water can take any form. Water can evaporate and become the mist, it can become the fog, or it can condense and become the rain and fall back down again. The water takes the shape of whatever container it's placed in. And similarly, our mind has taken the shape of the environment that we have put ourselves in. We've put ourselves in a modern environment of day-to-day activities from day one. We've been ushered through the stages and stage of life ever since we were born into this physical body. Meditation is about freeing the part of ourself which is attached. And the part of ourself which is attached is our awareness in the form of attention. So you have your attention as your willfully directed window of perception. I can direct my attention to any number of things, such as viewing something with my eyes. My attention is what is behind my eyes. I can listen to music. I can listen to a conversation, and my attention will be in my hearing, in my ears. I can taste some delicious food, and my attention will be placed on my ability to taste. So it is our attention that is the connecting factor. Now, in the beginning of the meditation, we are willfully directing our attention in order to stabilize, in order to remove the attention from the attachments. Our attention is involved in many attachments, and this is due to habit. We are creatures of habit, and we usually stay the same unless we make a willful, conscious change. Or perhaps the circumstances in life change and cause us to change. But in meditation is a willful process of change. We seek to change from whatever we are now into a whatever we can become, and whatever that means to you. Some seek the truth, some seek reality, some just want to know what's beyond the limitations. So whatever reason, perhaps you just want to rise above the pain. Perhaps you just want to overcome the incessant mental chatter that seems to be such an annoyance that is constantly getting in the way of direct experience. And if you've ever had a direct experience of something in life, well, then you know that it's perhaps more fun to experience life directly rather than to have the preconceived notions, the judgments, the narration, the mental chatter, all the things that can get in the way, the labeling, the critique, the liking, the disliking. So how do we get beyond all that? Well, if we first take upon ourselves the concept of a very important lesson and teaching that my teacher once taught me, and that is to be neither attracted nor repulsed. Be neither attracted nor repulsed. So what's left? It's to be neutral. To be neutral. So when a thought comes in the mind, don't be attracted to it. Don't be repulsed by it. Just let it go and return your attention back to the object of focus. Now, if you don't have an object of focus, and if you're just observing thought, to me, that's a much more difficult process. So it's important in the beginning to have an object of focus if you want to quickly enter into the meditative state. Because the object of focus, in this case being the music, listening to the music, it gives me something to return to. It gives me something for my attention to stabilize on. And when I can achieve stable attention, a steady stream of continuous attention willfully directed, that begins to transform into effortless awareness. And effortless awareness is the prerequisite for the meditative state. The idea is simple. Awareness is a transformation of attention. Awareness already exists like a light bulb. In our center, in the center of our being, there's a light, a lighthouse, a light bulb emitting light. And imagine that is our awareness. And all the thoughts, images, ideas, conditioning are obscuring that light. They're kind of like covering it up, just like I'm covering my face here. And as we meditate, we begin to loosen up our attachment to that thing. And we want to keep covering it and bringing it back. And then little by little, we reach a point and oh my God, we're drifting off. And then it's becoming looser and looser. And then finally, effortless awareness simply shines. It simply shines forth without any doing on our part. And at that stage, we are at the stage of meditation. So, without further ado, let's get there, my friends. So slowly and surely, we begin the process of removing the covering of the light that shines within in order to reach that stage of effortless awareness. So as we begin and listen to the music, we are beginning with willfully directed attention. Every time the mind or the attention wanders back to its tendencies of thought, tendencies of whatever it is. Or perhaps your attention wanders back to your body because it feels safe in the body and it's used to, it's familiar with that form. Return it to the listening of the music. That's step one. I will attempt to demonstrate. All right, all right. And we're back. Thank you, folks, for joining me for another wonderful meditation session. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.